Eventually, Slenderman and her mother began to haunt houses. What it is, guys, it's your boy Blastphamoushd, and today we are here to probably scare the crap out of me. Now, anybody who knows anything about me knows that Slenderman is literally the scariest video game other than PT and Outlast to me. So with that being said, today we gonna watch a video called The True Story of Slenderman, and then we gonna watch something called The History of Slenderman. Now, I've never seen any one of these videos, to say the truth, and I'm kind of uncomfortable watching them with you guys. But, let go! The real name of Slenderman was Simon. When he was a child, he loved playing in the woods. He was a very strange child. In fact, he liked to go in the woods during the night, and he was not afraid. When he was 10 years old, his house burned and his parents died. Simon, having saved himself, ran into the woods and he found a dark and small house. Oh my God, George, Jesus. That was the house of Granny. Oh no, okay. Oh no. So Granny was the mother of Slendrina's mom? The fuck? Granny welcomed Simon and she took care of him. Granny was a widow and her daughter was called Angeline. Okay. Angeline and Simon grew together. When they were 17 years old, they fell in love. They spent a lot of time walking in the woods. Damn jump scares. But one night, Simon lost Angeline in the woods. Eventually, he found her lying on a dark path. Simon brought her home and Granny medicated the wound on her leg. When Angeline woke up, she told a dog with red eyes and sharp teeth had bitten her leg. And she kept talking about a curse. Angeline seemed to be crazy. And she told that while she was sleeping, she dreamed they will be a cursed dog. They will have a cursed daughter. What the? That lighting is actually better, even though it is darker. After 1 year, Simon and Angeline decided to move and change houses. Then Slendrina was born. But when she was 14 years old, the curse occurred. One night, while they were playing in the woods, they saw a shadow figure in the sky that looked like Slendrina's mother. Slendrina ran home while her dad was still in the woods. Then Simon went home and found his daughter and his wife dead on the bed. Simon became mad and very sad, so he went into the kitchen and with a knife he killed himself. They were actually playing a trick on her dad, so they went to the kitchen to find Simon dead. Oh. They ran in the woods to look for help, but they couldn't find anyone. So they went back home into the kitchen, but Simon's body wasn't there. He'd moved. So then they went into the bedroom and found Simon's body lying on the bed. He slowly raised up on the bed and took both of them to the underworld, taking their souls. Eventually, Slendrina and her mother began to haunt houses. After the curse, the face of Simon became empty and pale. His arms became long and got tentacles on his back. So for these reasons, he's called Slenderman. Slenderman started to haunt woods and look for children to play with. I really shouldn't have watched that. It scared the living crap out of me. Thanks for the jump scares. Alright, now we're going on to the history of Slender. If this video ends abruptly, I just got scared and turned it off. You know what I mean? I'm just letting y'all know.
Slenderman is arguably the most well-known of the creepypasta monsters, breaking through the wall of cult following into the mainstream rivers of the internet. You could even say he commands a large enough fan base to be considered a different fandom to creepypastas in some aspects. But before we delve into the true origin of this character, let's take a look at his lore. Starting with the star of the show himself, Slenderman has been described with an array of abilities, originally starting with just tendrils streaming from his back, ability to psychologically break people, to selectively be invisible to certain people, and the ability to teleport. Nowadays, due to all the stories and adaptations, he has a few more assumed abilities like proxies, whatever they are. His original actions would be to stalk his victims, causing them to doubt the very fabric of reality itself, usually by making himself visible for enough time for someone to register he's there, but not enough to confirm it. A very less is more approach, rather than charge in and brutally murder someone. It was also very unknown what Slenderman actually did to his victims, often leading to disappearances rather than mutilated bodies. Also, by distorting electronic equipment, he makes it very hard for anyone to document his actual existence. One of the main changes that happened over the time is that Slenderman used to almost exclusively stalk and victimize children indiscriminately, but nowadays he's seen to choose anyone of any age at seemingly random. There are many references to beings similar to Slenderman through the ages, starting with Europe's fairies. No, not the Tinkerbell kind, the spelling's different. Where some fairies were kind in nature, there were some who were cruel. Fairies have been known to kidnap children, cause disease, and put people in a trance, even succumb them to mind control, have odd features, be visible to certain people, teleport, and even trick people into trusting them before leading them to their demise. These traits line up well with the Slenderman that we hear about today. The next, and one of the most notable historic mythos that lines up with Slenderman, is the German's the Grossman. The Grossman translates to the Great Man, or the Tall Man, and is a sort of German boogeyman. He's described as a fairy of the Black Forest, lining up with one of the original mythos of Slenderman, that he often stalks forests rather than cities or towns. Here, he would take away bad children who entered the forest at night, and stalk them until the naughty child confessed their ill behaviours to their parents. A notable source that is also from Germany is a painting by Hans Baldung, who was a Renaissance artist who died in 1545. The painting, called 3 Ages of Woman and Death, depicted a skeletal figure holding an hourglass. When the painting went through an X-ray in 2003, due to insurance reasons, it was discovered that it was, in fact, altered early on to remove several extra limbs on the skeletal figure, the correlation being Slenderman's tendril trait. In Britain, there are 2 mythos matching Slenderman. The first is the Scottish Feardog, the Black Man. This legend is about an entity that...
Hey, that's racist. Okay, just because he's black, don't mean he's kidnapping people.
This creature had characteristics that are close to a more primitive Slenderman. This story was told to scare children to stay indoors at night and stop children wandering in the forest without adult supervision. And in England, you have the Clutchbone, which was a 7-foot monster which dates back to the early 1800s. This creature was described as being black in colour, with leathery textured skin. Its head consisted of a lit torch within a large, raised collar of material similar to rawhide. This more violent depiction included destruction by burning, disappearances, and even dismemberment of victims. What is interesting to note is that before there were sightings of the Clutchbone, people would witness lightning bolts created by severe weather conditions, leading to a theory that the creature might have arrived into this dimension by way of this natural phenomenon. Moving on to Eastern Europe, there are two more notable examples. There is a Romanian fairy tale called The Tall Man. You can actually watch a video I made on this quite a while ago. This fairy tale depicts a mother who falls under the tall man's influence and kills her family. The tall man is described as being dressed as a nobleman in all black, with multiple arms like snakes and sharp swords. In Russia, a folklore exists that dates back to the early 20th century, which has a tall, slender man as a corrector who would hunt those who existed through unconventional means, such as being born without a father. Ghost stories of the American South. In this book, there is a story of a tall, skinny, tree-like man that abducted a child from a family. The story was collected from a 72-year-old man in 1963, meaning the story could potentially date back to the early 20th century. In Taino, a civilization that predates the Colombian inhabitants of the Caribbean, has a legend that speaks of the hupia or opa, which is a nocturnal humanoid without a face that stalks its prey, paralyzing them and slowly driving them insane. This creature was considered the spirit of the dead in the Taino religion. An interesting creature that is found in Japan is the Noporabo, often referred to as the Mujina, a spirit with long arms and legs and no face.
I was about to say, man, why does it look like this dude has a longer than both his other legs? What's going on, and where can I get the surgery?
There are two stories about this creature. The first one is the Noporabo and the Koi Pond. This tale recounts a lazy fisherman who decided to fish in the imperial koi ponds near the Heian-kyo Palace. Despite being warned by his wife about the pond being sacred and near a graveyard, the fisherman went anyway. On his way to the pond, he was warned by another fisherman not to go there, but he again ignores the warning. Once at the spot, he is met by a beautiful young woman who pleads with him not to fish in the pond. He ignores her and, to his horror, she wipes her face off. Rushing home to hide, he's confronted by what seems to be his wife, who chastises him for his wickedness before wiping her facial features as well. And the second tale, the Mujina of the Akasaka Road. This is a story of a man who travelled along the Akasaka Road to Edo. He came across a young woman in a remote location near Kunizaka Hill, crying and forlorn. After attempting to console the young woman and offer assistance, she turned to him, startling him with the blank countenance of a faceless ghost. Frightened, the man proceeded down the road for some time until he came across a soba vendor. Stopping to relax, the man told the vendor of his tale, only to recoil in horror as the soba vendor stroked his face, becoming a Noporebo himself. There are even some correlating historical links with some ancient civilizations, notably the Babylonians, that believed in a demon called the Alu, who is a half-man, half-demon creature with no face. The Alu would sneak into the bedroom of the victim and terrify them as they slept. This creature reportedly caused a loss of consciousness, fixation of the eyes in a stare, and a loss of speech. An ancient cave painting in Brazil is arguably the oldest reference that can be linked to Slenderman, dating back to possibly around 9000 BC. This painting depicts a strangely elongated person leading a child by the hand. There are so many legends that line up with Slenderman's myth so closely, but they are not the true origin of the Slenderman. Paranormal picture Photoshop competition by a person with the username Victor Surge, featuring Slenderman with a short description of the creature, describing him as a mysterious creature that stalks children.
If there's anything positive I can say about having watched these videos just now, at least I've got about 7 hours until it's dark in my house. This wasn't very well thought out, people, but I'm gonna watch some try not to laugh challenges, and it should make me feel better, hopefully. But yo, if you guys wanna watch the original videos, the links will be in the description down below. It's your boy Blastphamoushd. Twism.